Welcome back to the Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Monday, Holo Cult. You know what that means. You've chosen us to hang out with you to get you through the work week. Today's show, I'm going to dive into what is possibly the largest recorded apparition of the Virgin Mary to date. So you're going to have to stick around if you want to listen to this miracle, or is it? Because it's coming after we get through the business. If you're new here, we take some time to talk about some stuff. And if you want to fast forward, you can. That's the beauty of a podcast. You can fast forward and not have to listen to us talk. You can go right to the show. It's amazing. Because there are some ads and stuff. If you're listening on Spotify, they put their own ads in. We don't even control that. It's like magic. It's crazy.
It is.
Also, you're getting the show for free. So shut the fuck up. If you don't want ads,
I am a robot.
If you don't want ads, you can go to the Patreon and you can get ad-free shows there. Dang. You fucking dorks. Dang. This is not to all the cool listeners. This is to the crybaby listeners. That being said, check us out all our social medias. I'm not going to name them all off, but you can check them out there.
It's everyone.
Every social media you can ever existed, we're there.
Yeah.
It's a good time. But yeah, you can fast forward through all the talking, get right to the crux of the show. I don't know where it'll be because every platform put their own ads in. So life's a mystery, and we're here for mysteries. If you got a paranormal experience you'd like for us to feature on a future show, Kyle's got some details for you.
I do. It's in the show notes, as usual. holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Write your story out. Shoot it over there. Put it in the catacombs. Dig it out. Air it. You're famous.
Famous. I saw people talking in the Discord about them submitting their encounters that we had featured in past episodes. Now they're famous.
Good for them. I'm glad.
You know,
the hollow stepping stones.
It is easy. If you like to support the show, plenty of ways you can do it. Like I said, there's Patreon where you can get ad-free episodes. Damn. Crazy. All kinds of good stuff over there. Go check it out. It's sick. It's fly. All the cool kids are doing it. You can go to holoskypodcast.com and check out the merch selection over there, which is dwindled down to a little bit of nothing, but me and Kyle were just talking about it. We're going to pull the trigger on some merch here this year. Kind of excited about that. I saw homie Derek over at Monsters Among Us just to put a new mock release out for a shirt, and it's pretty dope.
Nice.
It's pretty sick. I shared it on the Instagram, so you guys should check it out. You can share the show word of mouth. Most important thing you can do. Share the show. Keep the Holo Cult growing. Keep our egos growing. I'm just saucy today. Ignore me. Share the show.
It happens, man. It happens. It's life.
Yeah, it's fine. But
we're sick and sunburnt and all that stuff. So we got that going for us right now. So I'm recording separate because we're smidge under the weather.
Yeah. Constantly battling it.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Okay.
We appreciate every share we get. Like that, you guys don't understand how much that helps. Go to the YouTube, subscribe over there. Notifications, comments, all that stuff helps with the algorithm that we don't know anything about, but we're trying.
Oh, and speaking to all the ads and shit like that, here before long, and this will even further cement me into doing this. Be on the lookout for a couple new trailers coming from Steve and I on the new shows. Because we're definitely going to air them on here.
Dang. Get ready. You might get a little preview on the Patreon.
Yeah, the Patreon is definitely going to house the majority of it. And Patreon members will be able to participate in my new show in a very unique way. And that's as far as, and it'll only be Patreon members that are allowed to do it. So there's
You
that.
will be famous. He's not kidding.
You will be a part of the show.
You will be famous.
Yeah, you'll become. I'll drop. You'll become residents. That's as much as I'm willing to drop.
You're gonna, yeah. It's cool. You're not gonna want to not be a part of it.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Another way you can support the show is leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'll gladly shout you out. If you leave a crybaby ass little bitch baby piss baby review, I won't shout you out. You just keep that on Spotify. Fucking burger. But today's 5-star rating and review, which is a positive one, comes to us from our friend Bears Honey. It's titled Epstein and the Loss of Gravity, 5 stars. Guys, sigh. Great shows, but you got to read your Bible. Your fears would grow, or by faith be taken away. It breaks my heart hearing how surprised by what's going on, how such smart, bright guys you are so fearfully and also, but also how fearfully and surprised you are. Lack of gravity for a while would be fun. My imagination goes wild. But dudes, you got to get to know Christ. Well, first off, Bears Honey. Oh, heart emoji too. Yeah, heart emoji. First off, thanks for the kind words. But don't stress. Don't stress about us. We each got our own path in life, you know?
Yeah.
Don't stress.
And we're the types you have to let us walk our path.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
We'll end up where we're meant to end up. I firmly believe that.
And funny that this one popped up today because I'm doing an episode on a Marian apparition.
I was going to say, Steve found Mary.
So I didn't personally.
Well, you did.
Well, I found some information about her.
No, you found it.
Yeah. Technically,
you're selling yourself short. You need to quit.
You know what? I've turned over.
I told you, positivity, Steve. We gotta be positive.
I turned over a new leaf.
Yeah.
Another way you can support.
And by turning over a new leaf is borderline plagiarism.
Yeah.
Claiming that you found Mary.
Yeah.
In a weird way. You know what I mean.
It's
whatever.
It's a miracle, is what it is.
It is a miracle.
But another way you can support the show is by supporting our wonderful sponsors that you will hear from right now. All right, just like that, Holocult, we are back. We are back. And a little precursor here. I was stumbling around the old bookstore and I found this book on miracles, which is a source to my episode today. Miracles, a parascientific inquiry into the wondrous phenomena by D. Scott Rogo. Got a lot of interesting, crazy stuff in there that sent me on this path that led to this episode today. Particularly the Marian apparitions, which are manifestations of the Virgin Mary. We've heard about Fatima, we've heard about Lourdes, but this one in particular is crazy because up to a million people saw it, which is a lot.
That's rad.
That's crazy.
It's crazy too that these types of encounters go under the radar for so many people too.
Yeah.
Me included. I don't think I've heard of this one, at least not off the top of my head. I may have heard it through the grapevine, just whisking by one day, but never in the, in the detail that you're going to bring forth. And it doesn't ever make its rounds through the paranormal channels on social media or any place like that. It's amazing how much of the miracle side of the paranormal just stays right on the floor.
And there are certain aspects of this particular incident, series of incidents, that can definitely be woven in through the paranormal, which is interesting. But we're going to get into it. So this is Our Lady of Zeitoun. Today's case takes us to Egypt, spring of 1968, and the largest Marian apparition is about to occur. The witnesses aren't just a few devout believers, but a crowd sometimes over 250,000 people. Christians, Muslims, atheists, scientists, military personnel, political leaders, even the president of the Republic of Egypt, all descend to see this apparition of what they believe is the Virgin Mary walking along the dome of a local church. It doesn't last a few seconds. It doesn't last a few minutes. It doesn't last a few days. It makes its appearance sometimes multiple times weekly for over 3 years.
What? Because I was going to ask, I almost cut you off and asked, like, how do these people plan to see this apparition? And there's the answer.
Yeah, she's pretty.
That's crazy.
It wasn't like clockwork, but she was. If you waited long enough, she'd show up.
It made me want to go too.
Oh yeah, to see something like
if it was relatively local to us, I would be like, see, we got to go try to see this.
Which also makes me think. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but these apparitions have kind of fallen off since we've gotten closer, like more technologically advanced. They've kind of really withered away.
Well, I was thinking that too, because we talked off air for just a smidge about you talked about them casting that coin and the hail that came down mirrored the coin and stuff. And when you said that, instantly in my head, I thought to myself, we don't do that type of stuff anymore. Like there aren't these moments of like praise, these moments of just like, just good for, goodwill that you're punching out there. It's almost like, in a weird way, it's almost like a ritual. And I feel like you said, with technology and time, a lot of this old way of thinking and believing has left the building, so to speak.
Yeah. I think that affects the way we think. It affects our thought processes. It affects our emotions and the amount of energy we put into these things. You know what I mean? Like when he's talking about this a miraculous event, which I might do an episode on it, but I'm just going to touch on it briefly. There was I think it may have been a sighting of a Virgin Mary in a town in France. Well, they cast a coin based on a statue at a local church there. They made a medallion, not a coin, a medallion.
Oh,
not longer after they pressed the medallion, this huge hailstorm came through. And the hail was weird. It was like flat. People were picking up the hailstones, and on the hailstones were the image of the Virgin Mary that was cast on the medallion recently.
Bro, what I would give to have one of those medallions.
That'd be sick.
Dude, as soon as you said coin first, but you said medallion, and ironically enough, not very long ago, I'm like, I need a dope medallion to wear. And then you say a medallion, I'm like, God, that would be sick to have one of those.
If I can find enough meat on it, I'll probably do an episode, because I really dug into this shit, right?
I love it, because like I said, we know we don't cover it very often, and it just seems like the great, like, not to fucking throw shade, but with the amount of religious paranormal podcasts out there, I don't feel like many of them even ride the train of miracle very often.
No.
And you would think that would be a big avenue to push into to get some of these cases a little more well known and get more traction for them. I do think they're important.
And the gamut that miracles run is crazy. It goes everything from like levitation to bilocation to fire immunity and shit. Like it's
fucking cool. And that's you gotta admit, that's paranormal 101 right there.
Yeah.
All that crazy shit is paranormal. I don't give a fuck who you are. Even religion itself is borderline paranormal. It is the paranormal. What are we talking about? That's paranormal.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly.
It 100% is.
It gets so weird. All right. So before I get into it, we're going to get into a little history, kind of go back in time a little bit, let you know what's going on with Egypt in 1968. Let you also know about some lore that existed around Zeitoun. Anywho, It's April 2nd, 1968. Egypt is a battered nation. Less than a year ago, it was handled a brutal defeat in the Six-Day War against Israel. The nation's hurt, morale is crushed, and poverty is running rampant. There's also religious tension between the Muslim majority and the Coptic Christian minority. It's so bad, like you could cut it with a knife. Like, it's getting ready to blow over. This is all taking place in the predominantly Muslim town of Zeitoun in the northern outskirts of Cairo. There is legend that this particular place was a place that Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus, hid after fleeing their homeland when Herod, the Tetrarch of Judea, ordered all firstborn Jewish children killed after learning that the Messiah's birth had been foretold. Catholic tradition of Zeitoun is still evident today, as it still has a good Coptic Catholic population there. So it's got lore behind the area. The Coptic Church is a sect closely allied to the Roman Catholic Church. It broke away from Orthodox Catholicism in 1054 AD and is strongly represented in several Near Eastern countries. Despite a number of affinities, the Coptic Church recognizes its own pope, who has historically resided in Constantinople instead of Rome. It's also got its own synod of bishops. The patriarch of the Coptic Catholic Church at the time of the Zeitoun manifestations was Pope Kyrillos VI, who had rose to leadership in 1959 after years of internal strife had almost devastated the sect. We're going to fast forward back to 1968. We're on Tumanbai Street. It's a busy road lined with garages and shops and little restaurants and stuff. Just kind of your basic, busy road. Across from one of these garages is the Church of St. Mary of Zeitoun, a beautiful Coptic Catholic church adorned with large domes. One particular garage that's across from it is the garage for the public transport authorities. And there's two mechanics working late into the night. It's about 8:30. These two mechanics on duty were Farouk Muhammad Atwa and Abdel Aziz Ali. Both men are Muslim, which is, I don't know a lot about Muslim religion, obviously, but I do know how high of a regard the Catholics hold Mary. I know she's important in the Muslim religion, but I don't know how they kind of coincide. So the men are working. They go outside to take a breath of fresh air. They're not praying. They're not looking for a miracle. They're just trying to finish up and close up shop. As Farouk steps outside, he looks toward the church. And the church has a big, beautiful central dome. And on this dome, he sees a woman. And she's dressed all in white, and she's kneeling toward one of the big stone crosses on the dome. So Farouk's first thought isn't like, oh my God, I'm seeing the Virgin Mary. His first thought is, we got a jumper. He's thinking that they seeing a nun from the church getting ready to take her own life and throw herself from the dome. So he immediately starts yelling, lady, be careful. Wait. And he has Abdel go and get the police, go get emergency services. He's like, this is going to end badly, So as he's yelling, more and more people are starting to gather. And another one ran to get the church's pastor. Another one called emergency service squad. So they're trying to get a bunch of people together. As the larger crowd gathers, they're all yelling for this woman not to jump. The police notice. Hold on. The police notice and start to try to disperse the crowd, saying, obviously, if she does jump, they don't want a bunch of people around seeing that. As they're sitting there, the figure stands up and begins to walk the curve of the dome. They said that she moved with an unnatural fluidity, almost as if she was floating. At this point, people begin to realize that they're looking not at a person made of flesh and bone and blood, but she is made of light. They notice that there is no shadow coming, like she's casting no shadow. The light that's produced is emitting from her. She's producing her own light. So as they're sitting there looking, somebody yells from the crowd, Santana Mariam, Our Lady Mary. And this really starts to get people to gather. So the police are now trying to disperse the crowd that is there witnessing a miracle. They're trying to convince everybody, hey, it's just a reflection. Go on with your business. The whole time they're standing there in night watching this lighted figure walk the dome of the church.
See, those moments are also moments that agitate the fuck out of me. And I get it. I get it from like a police standpoint and whatever, but let these people experience life together.
Yeah.
Let people live in the moment from time to time. Yeah. I get it if you are really convinced that it is a jumper. I get that. But at the same time, that's the other part of our society that I think has failed is we all because that would happen right now. If that were to happen somewhere in the world, the same shit would happen when they'd be like, get out of here, leave. There's too many people crowding together, blah, 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 blah. No, let people come together. Let people witness this miracle, for lack of better words, together, and let that story spread like wildfire, because that might inspire peace among people.
Yep.
Something as simple as that, as seeing that image that they were able to witness, I do feel like could inspire a lot of people and kind of renew faith and renew the outlook on life.
Yep. Which is something that really never happens anymore,
It's weird.
Yeah. It's crazy. So the figure remained in sight for several minutes before disappearing. Where am I at here? Yeah. So authorities would interview Farouk the next day, and he would tell them, quote, I saw clearly that it was the Virgin Mary. He had had an injury to one of his fingers that had gotten infected and gotten gangrene. He was supposed to get it operated on the following day. But he noted, my finger, quote unquote, my finger, which was to be operated on for gangrene, was instantly healed the moment I pointed at her.
Bro, that's
this
awesome.
Would be the first miracle.
That is fucking awesome.
It gives me goosebumps when I said
it. And what are the I don't know. I'm just trying to. It's hard for me to articulate the happenstance of him pointing, not even really realizing, but he's pointing, and she or whatever it is fixes his finger and is like, you're fucking healed. Hell yeah, dude. And he does it, and it's so subtle that he doesn't even realize at the time.
Yep. Wasn't until the next day.
Right. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That's awesome.
Because I've never had gangrene, but you would think that finger be hurting.
Probably be stinking like a motherfucker too.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
Keep some fucking aerosol and spray that motherfucker down.
Eventually, after several minutes, again, the apparition disappears, but I noted it didn't disappear like a light switch that flicked off. It just dissipated. They said like vapor dispersing into the air. No one knew quite what to make of the phenomena, but during the next several days, rumors began to spread throughout Cairo that the figure was the Blessed Virgin Mary herself. Small crowds of Zeitoun residents began to form in the streets surrounding the church, hoping that the figure would appear. And reappear she would. The next time, on April 9th, the week after her initial appearance, she was seen in a radiant blue light walking along the dome. After this second sighting, she began to materialize much more frequently. Sometimes she was seen multiple times a week, sometimes as little as 10 minutes at a time, Other times for as long as 8 consecutive hours. From sundown to sunup, she would walk the dome. Which is bonkers.
It's also weird, very weird and concerning. Did it happen all hours of the day or just at nighttime?
At night.
See, and that's weird.
I'm fairly sure it was at night.
It's weird that it's at night because one could argue, not saying that this is the reality, because I don't believe that it is, solely based off the situation. But, blue beam, the hologram, and all that fucking jazz, very strange. But that creates a problem in conjunction with miracles starting to take place, like the guy's finger being healed, right? So that comes down to, it's very interesting.
I love
to run
going this way.
It's very interesting to run down that avenue because it leads you in two separate directions. One, it's a real miracle, the phenomenon, whatever it is, whether be it religious or whatever's happening, is real. And dude was healed, which no matter if you look at that through the lens of religion or alien or whatever the fuck whatever label you want to put on that, it's still a positive miracle. It's still a great thing. Or could it be the hologram situation? But kind of like we discussed slightly earlier, the amount of people that are now consciously focusing on the Mary and all of the things that come along with that, subconsciously on that level, did a collective consciousness happen and was somehow able to heal this man and not even really create that image, but there was like a byproduct of the created image.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video on it. I can't remember who did it. I think it was, it may have been called The Christian Way. I can't remember. But they said, what'd they say? An apparition without miracles is just a light show. And I was like, oh, damn.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. I won't rob it of that, but it could, like, especially in today's world with the technology that we have, it is getting to that point where that is a valid statement.
That got my brain turned. I know we're just firing off here. That got my brain turning about blue beam. When you said blue beam, I'm like, all right, here we go. What if because people just started talking about blue beam within the last 15 years?
Yeah, sure.
What if blue beam started in 47?
Could have.
When Roswell happened. What if that was the kickoff? What if that was all fake? That was to get the flying saucer little green men thing rolling.
Very well could have.
And then you have stuff like this, which is also, dude, I don't know. It's weird.
It is weird. And I mean, I wouldn't argue the possibility of, there are some definite oddities, and holes in that theory.
Because there was some significant, like there were UFOs over the goddamn White House not long after that. Like that's a ballsy move.
Right.
But it also, if it were, set up by the government, that what better way to kick off UFO fear than have these things, show up over the White House? It's weird.
It is weird.
Oh man, where was I? As 8 consecutive hours from sundown to sunup. The following week, the sighting graced basically every Egyptian newspaper, not religious papers. Every newspaper, even the major national daily papers controlled by secular government, had headlines reading, "The Virgin Mary appears in Zeitoun." Large crowds waited nightly outside the church. On April 13th, a photographer from Cairo was able to photograph the figure. I'm going to mess his name up, and I apologize. We're just going to call him Mr. Mata. Mr. Mata had heard about the apparition through the media and visited the church on the night of April 12th. The Virgin did not appear until 3:55 a.m. And though she remained in view for only 10 minutes, Mata was able to take several pictures of her from a street adjoining the church. The resulting pictures were not of very high quality, but they were the first that would be, or that would eventually be, many spectacular photographs of the apparition. And you can find these. You look up Our Lady of Zeitoun, and they got some crazy photos of her up there on the dome. All of this obviously drew the attention of local government and local law enforcement. One evening, as the apparition was presenting itself to a crowd of over 10,000 onlookers, local police officers were let into the church to go investigate. Logically, they were expecting to find evidence of a hoax. They found nothing out of the ordinary. No one was found inside the church. No one was on the roof. There was no one in there that could have been manipulating or creating the images on the dome. The roof was empty. They expanded the search to surrounding buildings in the neighborhood, looking for any sort of light projector that could possibly be creating the image on the dome. They found nothing, but the figure still stood, just watching on as they scrambled about trying to find an explanation to the image. This almost forced the hand of the authorities to take drastic measures. In an attempt to expose the manifestation as a hoax, they cut the power to the entire district of Zeitoun. A 15-mile square radius had its power cut. Streetlights go black, homes go dark. And, if it were a projection, it would have cut off. If it were a reflection, cut off the light source, the reflection goes. Zeitoun falls into darkness, except for the apparition, still standing on the dome, moving back and forth. She's engulfed in complete darkness, but she shines even more brighter now, so much so that she's illuminating the crowd of thousands on the streets below her. Believers, skeptics, government officials all bathed in this light coming from this being. Almost like she was saying, like, nice try, fellas.
Well, I also like the idea too that like there's that humbleness to it where all the lights go out. So she's like, all right, I will now shine brighter to be the light in the night.
Yeah.
For everyone. Like that's super rad to me. I did wonder though. I do wonder. So when it and it's way off topic really, but in regards to like these types of situations, especially when it starts to make its rounds of miracles taking place, how do you think those situations affect the entity that is manifesting itself and has the ability to conduct miracles for people? Because with the second that gets out that miracles are happening, it will be a feeding frenzy for people. You know what I mean? There will be, don't get me wrong, there will be people there in desperate need of things, but there will also be people who are like almost being greedy about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not, and that's hard for me to explain, but I think you understand what I'm saying. And then there'll be people who are there to genuinely, like, I think, because I truly do think that if you and me were able to see something like this, I think that it would touch me in a way that would probably make me cry. Because I don't think that my brain would register it any other way than this is something fucking beyond.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know. I just would see it as an overwhelming positive thing, and I really do think that it would change my outlook on life. But that there are people there that would look at that situation more of profit or greed, whatever word you wanna put there. And I wonder what that type of consciousness blasting out there does to that entity in those moments. You know what I mean? Or
like if it makes it, I feel like it, dude, I don't know if it is a divine being or if it's any kind of advanced being, you would think they would be able to tune into consciousness and intent.
Sure.
To where it could essentially single out the people that really are there that fully believe,
absolutely,
that need the help. As opposed
I just wonder if like those leeching thoughts, if they affect it in any way, because you like as a normal human being. If one of us was up there or anyone was up there and had the ability to heal, but you also could feel these bloodsuckers, so to speak, I think after a time it would leave a bad taste in your
Drain your
mouth.
energy.
You know what I mean? Like where you're just like, I'm done with these people because all they're doing is just they just want miracles. That's all they fucking want.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and then what? You want your fucking bunion on your foot fixed, rad. You know, because that would be real shit. There would be people with these fucking
Oh yeah.
lame ass things,
Yeah.
because in your head you envision like a mother carrying her daughter who's got fucking stage 4 cancer
Yep.
and is just and not even like wanting it. They're just hopeful that by the grace of this being, it cures your child. You know what I'm saying? Like that's genuine. And then there are going to be people that are like, oh, I got a screw in my knee. You need to fucking fix it. You know what I mean?
I would hope that it would be like immune to it, you know?
Me too. But it's one of those overwhelming thoughts where I wonder if it acts like us, where it has this bad taste, where it's like, all right, these people are only here
Yeah.
for me to perform. They're not
Yeah.
here to witness
It would get,
what is
I hate
beyond.
to be like that, but it would almost get to the point where it would be like an attraction.
Yes.
You would have
Yes.
people trying to sell tickets to it and everything else, There'd be
Oh,
vendors
absolutely.
on the street, buy your set of keys to heaven,
There you go. That
$9.99.
right there. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Does that
Sucks.
does that demotivate, or is that another reason why these things don't happen anymore?
Could be.
Because we don't just collectively just exist in that moment. We have to, like you said, that's a great point. Because you're right. If it happened consistently, there would be vendor stands. There would be this fucking underbelly of disgust present itself. That's a fucking solid one right there.
Yeah. Okay, where were they at? All right, they cut the power. So the figure appeared dozens of times during April and May. Most witnesses who saw it agreed that it glowed with a soft but intense radiance. Mata quotes saying, the first time I saw the apparition, the light cloud of Mary was so bright that it blinded my eyes. On May 5th, the figure stayed in full view for several hours before disappearing. The apparition revealed itself in a variety of ways. Before the actual appearance, flashes of light would often be seen darting about the top of the church. Occasionally, the central dome would become eerily luminescent as well. At other times, quote, meteoric lights would rush down toward the church from the heavens as though it was sent from the heavens themselves. The figure always appeared in a brilliant flash of light. The apparition would first appear somewhat amorphous, but would eventually take the form of a more defined human shape. It would initially be seen either in the air above or before the central dome, pacing back and forth on the rooftop. The figure would usually acknowledge the crowd by bowing to them or raising a hand and waving toward them. On rare occasions, it would appear as a Madonna with child, appearing to be carrying baby Jesus. Other times, she would be seen holding an olive branch, almost like a message toward the war-torn country that, hey, things are going to get better. The apparition never made a sound. Its manifestations were not predictable. There wasn't a time schedule. It might appear only once on a particular evening, or else it would disappear and reappear repeatedly throughout the span of the night. While usually seen at the top of the church, there were a few occasions she would materialize in the courtyard beside the building. Testimony remained consistent between witnesses that could not have corroborated with one another. The figure always appeared as life-size or slightly larger. The figure was most often white in color, but sometimes appeared to be bluish white. It almost always seemed to be wearing flowing robes of light and a bluish white veil. Sometimes she was seen wearing a golden crown. Other times she's reported to be wearing a halo of light surrounding her head. Her facial features were often obscured by the sheer intensity of the light. Other times her features could be seen clearly, with lowered eyes and a serene smile. I want to point out that Again, this wasn't just a static image. She would often bow to the cross on the dome. She would bow to the crowd. She would move about the dome. She would seemingly bless the crowd by moving her hands back and forth. When she would turn directions, it was reported that her back and veil were visible as a 3D form. It wasn't like a flat image. An especially bizarre aspect of the apparition and the way that its appearances would often be heralded or accompanied by what people called, quote, doves of light. These were images of light resembling pigeons or doves that would fly about the dome during the apparition or shortly beforehand. At times, they even flew on nights when the apparition never appeared. They seemed to form of pure light, and although they soared through the air for considerable distances, they never were seen flapping their wings. The phenomena also was reported or was repeatedly photographed. This is where it gets a little weird for me. The doves were one of the most documented aspects of the manifestations. Again, before, during, and after the apparition would appear, the sky above the church would fill with dozens of luminous formations. Witnesses called them doves, but were adamant that they were not birds. They were made of light. They could move at incredible speeds. They could stop midair instantly, as well as change direction without notice. Sometimes they flew in perfect geometric formations, oftentimes taking the shape of the cross. They never appeared to flap their wings. They simply glided and flew throughout the night sky. Sounds familiar.
It does. It sounds very UFO-y. And to be honest with you, very Boogosphere.
Yeah. That's pretty UFO-y to me. That's very tic-tac movement.
But that would be, and as much as we've talked shit, that also would lead credence to the, Mr. Bledsoe and what he's experienced.
Which still almost takes you to a form of manipulation.
It could be
aliens if they're extraterrestrials posing as religious figures, even if they're doing good things, that's still a form of manipulation.
It is, but I think
it's bad.
Go ahead.
But it's still manipulation.
It is manipulation, but where I would give grace is if they were a civilization that was trying to make positive contact, that could be a viable way to do so. You know what I'm saying? Where they would be like, all right, well, let's just what would be a all around blanket image that people wouldn't initially be terrified of, it wouldn't go to war over. We'll pick the Virgin Mary and we'll start to make contact and we'll ease ourselves into this situation. I could understand that.
Yeah. And also hold that thought when I get toward the end, because since you said that makes sense as to why they would choose that particular spot per se.
Right.
From the book, from that Miracles book, I pulled some eyewitness accounts just to kind of iterate them to you guys about what people were seeing at the time. A brief description of one of the appearances at Zeitoun has been placed on record by Bishop Samuel, an official of the Coptic Church, who saw the apparition repeatedly in early 1968. After journeying to Zeitoun to investigate the matter. On his first visit, he had to wait well into the morning hours before the apparition materialized. At 2:45 in the morning, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared in a complete luminous body as a radiant, phosphorescent statue. After a short while, the apparition vanished. It reappeared at 4 o'clock in the morning and remained until 5 o'clock dawn. The scene was overwhelming and magnificent. The apparition walked toward the west, sometimes moving its hand in blessing, sometimes bowing repeatedly. A halo of light surrounded its head. I saw some glittering beings around the apparition. They looked like stars, and they were rather blue in color. Another more detailed account was prepared by Bishop, I'm going to butcher this, Athanasius?
Yep.
Athanasius? Mm-hmm.
A Thanos.
Yes. Another official of the Coptic Church who traveled to Zeitoun from his home city of Beni Suet at the direct request of Pope Kyrillos VI. The bishop reported his observations to the Pope and to the Reverend Jerome Palmer, an American priest who had become an authority on the Zeitoun affair. In 1969, Father Palmer went to Egypt specifically to interview witnesses to the Marian visitations there. He eventually published a collected testimony in his book, Our Lady Returns to Egypt, which I did not find a copy of. The bishop made a first visit to the church on April 6th, obtained his first good look at the apparition at 3:45 the next morning from a street near the building. He's quoted by saying, "The crowd was tremendous. It was too difficult to move among the people, but I tried and worked my way in front of the figure. And she was there, 5 or 6 meters above the dome, high in the sky, full figure like a phosphorus statue, but not as stiff as a statue. There was movement of the body and of the clothing. It was very difficult for me to stand all the time before the figure, as human waves were pushing me from all sides. I would make an estimate that the crowd was at 100,000 or so. In an hour, I think I stood before the figure 8 or 9 times. I began to tire and thought it was sufficient of me." The bishop then entered a small building to the south of the church, where he was able to watch the apparition through a window. Quote, "I stood inside for 1 hour, from 4 to 5 o'clock, looking at the figure. It never disappeared. Our Lady looked north. She waved her hand. She blessed the people, sometimes in the direction from where we stood. Her garments swayed with the wind. She was very quiet, full of glory. It was something really supernatural, very, very heavenly." He then goes on to say, "I saw a large, strange pigeon. It came from behind us. I don't know from where. It proceeded to the church and returned. Several bright spotlights moved quickly over us. Some people were reciting verses from the Quran. Some people were praying in Greek. Others were singing Coptic hymns. It was something really above the human experience that attracted and captivated us," which is interesting that you pointed that out earlier.
Yeah.
He says, "I stood there and tried to distinguish the face and the features. I can say there was something about the eyes and the mouth that I could see, but I could not make out very specific features. That continued until about 5 minutes before 5. The apparition began to grow fainter, and little by little, the light gave way to a cloud. Bright at first, then less and less bright until she disappeared. I went there many times later, but that was the appearance that left the greatest impression on me." A good description of the way the apparition would initially materialize was given to Father Palmer by a Mr. Shumbo. Mr. Shumbo was a Protestant who was working there for the Mobil Oil Company in Egypt. He visited the church several times before finally observing the apparition from the lot that had been prepared near the church for the convenience of the crowds. Quote, "We picked what we thought was the best place from which to watch and sat there. At about 9:50, we saw the light over the church, much stronger than one could make with a flashlight. I had a feeling something was about to happen. A thin line or an edge of light appeared, like the light you would see when you opened a door that lighted a room. Within seconds, it formed into the shape of the Virgin. I could not speak. All who were there with me said, 'This is impossible.' All of the Muslims began to cry. This sight lasted for 5 minutes, when the figure rose and then vanished. I could distinguish only a difference of color between the skin of the face and the hands and the veil. There was some color in the face and the hands. It was evident when St. Mary walked back and forth. When she disappeared from our side of the church, the people from the other side shouted and cried as they saw her. Then she returned to our side for 5 minutes. When I returned to the car for something, I found it impossible to get back to the church because of the crowds. I could hear the people shouting. Above the center dome, I saw Mary in full body, standing before the cross. I cannot describe what I felt. There were some, quote, pigeons, 6 or 7 of them over the church. Other signs and wonders often occurred in St. Mary's Church on those nights. The figure didn't appear. A Miss Zaki from New York, who had visited Zeitoun in August of 68, had described the phenomena in a diary of her trip, and she published a booklet called Our Lord's Mother Visits Egypt. Miss Zaki arrived in Zeitoun on August 7th and waited all throughout the nights of August 8th, 9th, and 10th to finally see the apparition. On 2 occasions, she saw mysterious flashes of light over the church, but the figure failed to materialize. Mrs. Zaki decided not to go to church on August 11th. That night, the apparition did materialize at 1:40, but quickly disappeared. Disappointed on having missed the Virgin's appearance, she went back to the church once again on the night of the 12th. Some 4,000 people had gathered. After a considerable wait, she was startled to see a series of brilliant, bright flashes of light over the church. Then, according to Miss Zaki, the large dome of the church became engulfed in a brilliant blue-white light, as if it were melting. The edges of light on top of the dome appeared to roll inward, so that one's eyes were directed to the very center. Then the light vanished and reappeared momentarily. When it did, Miss Zaki could plainly see the outline of the Blessed Virgin against the dome. The figure stood immobile like a statue, but then she began to move her arms. They moved slowly upwards, writes Mrs. Zaki. This lasted only a few seconds. 2 flashes of light like meteors or shooting stars came from behind the dome to form a cross over her head, and then all became dark and she was gone. The apparition didn't appear again that night, nor did it materialize the next night. Miss Zaki kept a day-by-day account of the Zeitoun miracles from April of 1968 till September of 1970, during which time the figure appeared at increasingly longer intervals. By the summer of 1968, the apparitions were already waning, though the flashing lights and doves continued to be seen regularly. In 1969, for example, a full form of the Virgin Mary was seen only on January 3rd, March 16th, March 23rd, April 2nd, 13th, 20th, May 4th and 10th, September 13th, October 11th, and December 6th. The luminescent doves and eerie flashes of light were seen atop the church at least twice a week during these same months. Or in their place was a smoky fog that would frequently emit from the top of the building. Her recording of the fog wasn't the only time that people had reported seeing it. Oftentimes before the apparitions, clouds of red or orange fog were seen enveloping the church. A lot of people said that this was incense, the same incense they used in Catholic Mass, perfuming the air, and it could be smelled for miles around the church. From there, I'm going to jump into some of the investigations that were put out. Just kind of quickly here, considering how the large crowds had gathered, not only the state, but also the church had to intervene. Police. General Mahmoud Trajou, the head of the Zeitoun police force, conducted exhaustive searches. He ordered every building searched for a 15-mile radius around the church, looking for holographic or laser equipment that might produce the image of Mary. Keep in mind, it was 1968. Technology at that time was pretty primitive, so something of that scale would have been impossible to hide. And he, in his official report, said he found no evidence of fraud, and he himself had seen the apparition. He sent guys out to search every building in a 15-mile radius.
Yeah. They were dedicated to trying to figure out what was going on there.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
And the other thing that I wanted to point out, too, about the non-likelihood, further evidence that it wasn't a projection, the simple fact that the bishop said you could see her dress fluttering in the wind.
Yeah.
There's the projection would not do. If that was a dead on statement, he could feel the wind coming from this direction and he saw her dress visibly move. Dude, the amount of planning and preparation to make that fake would be astronomical.
Crazy.
Because you would have to be like, hey, Steve, the wind has changed directions. You must make her dress move in this direction. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would be a subtle detail that a lot of people faking that situation would completely overlook.
Yeah. Yep. The Coptic Church. The Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church, Kyrillus VI, established a commission of bishops and priests to go and investigate the phenomena. Needless to say, they were less enthusiastic because they figured they were just anticipating ridicule from everything that was going on. The commission went to the site, blended in with the crowds, and observed the apparition. On May 4th, 1968, the Coptic Patriarchate issued an official statement. Quote, the patriarchal see declares with full faith and great joy and thanksgiving that the Blessed Virgin Mary has appeared many times in clear, stable forms over several nights on the dome of the Church of St. Mary of Zeitoun. The apparitions have been witnessed by thousands of citizens of different religions and foreigners. These apparitions have been accompanied by miraculous healings verified by doctors. The Vatican also investigated. The Catholic Church, even though the apparition occurred at an Orthodox church, also sent observers. Cardinal Stephanos I, the Coptic Catholic Patriarch, declared, quote, it is undoubtedly a true apparition. It has been seen by many Coptic Catholics faithful that I know, trustworthy people who are not easily deceived. An apostolic nuncio from the Vatican witnessed the apparition and prepared a full report that was sent to Rome. The president of Egypt. It has been confirmed through testimonies that President Nasser himself went to Zeitoun incognito to witness the phenomena himself. He hid in a garage across from the church. He saw the apparition. He immediately issued the local government to tear down multiple abandoned buildings around the church to facilitate the large crowds, letting more people witness the miracle, sometimes crowds reaching 250,000 people per night.
That's dope.
Yeah.
The fact that he went out of his way to do that, that's cool.
Yeah. Yep. Well, like we
that-
said, some
like-
people would be charging him tickets, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Get this cleaned up. People need to see this."
Yeah, I think it did the same thing to him. Like I said, he saw it and was like, "Oh my god,
Yep.
oh my god."
I put that quote here: "An apparition without miracles is just a light show." Here are some of the documented miracles. A medical committee was established to verify cases of physical healings that happened in the presence of the apparition. It was led by Dr. Shafi Abdel Malik, the professor of anatomy at the Ain Shams University. The criteria were strict. There had to be prior diagnosis, proof of sudden healing, and no scientific explanation. There were multiple cases, but here are three, not counting Farouk's. A woman by the name of Merva Zaharia had a terminal malignant tumor. Doctors gave her only weeks to live. After praying during one of the manifestations of the Virgin Mary, she felt overcome by an intense heat. Afterwards, she had subsequent x-rays which showed the complete disappearance of the cancerous mass. Doctors confirmed that there was no clinical explanation for the mass to have disappeared.
I love that.
Yeah. Case number 2. A man paralyzed for years was carried into the crowd on a stretcher. Once the apparition appeared and bowed toward the crowd, the man stood up and walked. This happened in front of thousands of people. A Muslim man who had been mute from birth stared at the apparition and the light that she produced. And as he sat there and stared, he said the first word that he had ever said, and it was Mary. These cases, as well as others, are preserved in the archives of the Church of Zeitoun, complete with the before and after medical records. So they're doing their due diligence.
And I love how they were picky about it too.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't even matter. It like almost like what you say about the sightings of Bigfoot or UFOs. All it takes is for one of it to be a legit miracle.
100%.
That's all it takes is for one to be legit.
And if you look into the Catholic Church, for something to be a miracle, it's very meticulously picked apart. Like, not everything just becomes a miracle. Like, is designated a miracle. You know, like there are hoops and stuff that you gotta go through to get that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the exact spot, because as Kyle was saying earlier, the energy put toward this could also lead it to almost be some sort of egregorical like thought form that's possibly creating Like you gotta look through every avenue here. But the land upon which the structure was built, the structure being the church, was donated to the Coptic Church in 1920 by a businessman named Khalil Ibrahim. After, or his family anyway, after one of its members had experienced a strange dream. The Virgin Mary appeared and urged him to build a church on the property. St. Mary's was built in 1925. At the time, the same family member had another dream. This time, the Virgin Mary promised to appear at the church the following year. So even before the Zeitoun miracle from 68 to 71, there existed a 40-year tradition that the Marian visitation would eventually take place at the point of the church. Remember, too, the Zeitoun's also steeped in a Reach Marian tradition where the Holy Family is said to have fled after leaving Judea. So that brings up, there's so much lore and energy tied to that specific spot, because they said that there was a sycamore tree where they built the church, and that sycamore tree is where supposedly Mary had stopped to rest in the shade holding baby Jesus. So then this dude's family had a dream, or this dude's family member had a dream, you need to build a church here and Mary will appear. They built the church there, and then 40, 50 years later, the Marian apparition happens.
That's crazy.
So could that be, like we've kind of talked about the UFO lore, you know, could that be that there was so much anticipation that a Marian apparition was going to appear there? Could there finally have been enough energy put toward it to pop her into reality? Just for that split second, or just for that small amount of time where Farouk saw her, and then as soon as he saw her and started yelling, more and more people immediately started popping energy into her, popping intent into her, and then that almost powered the apparition for the next 3 years.
That I think that's a question that we would never be able to answer, because the answer to that would require you to be present in that time, in that particular place, to verify or debunk the acknowledgement of the lore behind it.
Yeah.
You know, was it super thick in that local community? You know, did everybody know that story? Did everybody believe that story? Or was it just the people of the church knew the story, and that's as good as it gets?
That's all I've got for the episode, but I want to hear everybody's opinion. Post it in the comments. What do you think happened in Zeitoun? Was it a true miracle? Was it some sort of alien manipulation? Was it some sort of agorical thought form? Like I want to hear what you guys think. But on that YouTube video, I think it was called Christian Way. I don't remember. But there were people in the comments that were there when they were children that were there and saw it.
That's wild.
Crazy shit.
That's wild. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think legitimately, no matter which way you look at it, it's a miracle. Be it a religious deity or some type of extraterrestrial influence, regardless, to me, it was a miracle, because it came down, it did good.
Yep.
And then exited. I wish those things would happen more often. I think that it would completely revitalize the human race if these things happened. And I think you're right. I think there's something to it about trying to monetize these situations, and then technology being a massive split in our belief systems.
Yeah.
Be it religious, or because, I know in my head, in my existence, and I know that, like our rating comment that, suggests that we need to find our Bibles and Jesus and stuff. I'm never going to turn to the Bible. My belief structure is completely different than the Bible. However, I still do believe in a greater power of sorts. And you, like I've told you, Steve, like that stretch where we had that all that weird stuff happening, I had what I would call religious acknowledgement that I'll never, ever, ever be able to explain.
Yeah.
Ever.
That was weird.
My wife could also get on here and tell you we saw a cross form in the sky, and she tried to take a picture of it and could not take a picture of it. But both of us, saw that motherfucker. Clear as day, in the middle of a wide open. I mean, it was a mass. The clouds were fucking beautiful that day. And it was like these dark storm clouds, and it looked like they were mountains and all. Like, I remember saying that looks biblical. And then a cross formed right in the center opening. I just saw the clouds come together, and they formed that cross. And I'm like, Shauna, do you see that? And she's like, yeah, I do. And she got her phone out and was trying to record it and take a picture of it, and she couldn't do neither.
That's crazy.
And that was the same time whenever the lady came up to us in the grocery store and gave me the rosary rings.
Yep. Yeah. That's so weird.
Bro, I'll never be able to explain that. And like that changed the outlook of my life. Those interactions, that time in my life. To me, it was another push in the direction of you are protected. Like, we're watching out for you. No, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter what you call it or what it is that's watching out for me. The acknowledgement that something beyond here is watching out for me is all I need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't give a shit if it's a fucking alien. I don't fucking care if it's what God is depicted. That's irrelevant to me. All that matters to me is that there's a higher power
looking out for
that has great intentions, that is watching out for me. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird timing, man.
It was a bizarre time for us. Because that was right around the time when I was asking, I was putting tons of intent about protection out there. Yeah. About wanting to get protection for us and this, that, and the other. And it was a fucking weird time.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I wish these things happened more often. I think they would change so many people for the better. And you don't have to be perceived a Bible thumper to make your life positive. You don't have to do that.
And on that note, what if they are happening like that? What you experienced is on par with what they experienced, only it was personal to you and your wife.
It's true. That's true.
And I think a lot of people just
more of an isolated event.
Yeah, a lot of people just. But if you look at the other big initial Marian apparitions, like Lords and stuff like that happened pretty singularly. Like the initial interaction was between children or just a single person, and it almost like grew from there. But it makes me wonder how many times these things have happened to people and people just write them off. Not necessarily write them off, but just put them in the back of their brain. Like, man, that was a pretty profound, crazy experience. But,
and to play devil's advocate to that, what if Mary did present herself in the day and just nobody was looking up?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't see the light. You didn't see. Yep. And then we're all so busy with our computer screens and all that bullshit that we don't.
It might be happening. We're just missing it because we're doing this the whole time.
Absolutely right, man.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm also sitting here thinking about like if you go the UFO route, like there have been cases where abduction victims have come back with ailments healed.
Yeah.
Which is on par. If it were a thought form, essentially you could play the card that the collective consciousness is expecting miracles, so they happen. Like the collective consciousness have healed these select few. Which, I mean, there's almost been cases of that too. Like,
sure.
I don't know. It's so weird. So crazy.
It is, but it's awesome.
It is awesome. It is fucking awesome. That's what I got for you, Hollow Cult. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope, if nothing else, has got your brain turning. So again, let us know what you think in the comments, in the Discord, in the chats. Let us know. Interact with us. Let us know what you think. If you have experienced a miracle of your own, shoot it to us. Shit's rad. We want to know. And on that note, we love you guys. Thank you for choosing us to hang out with you this Monday. Stay safe, stay weird, and I don't know, man. Keep your eyes out for miracles. The world needs some.